All right, hello. What we're going to be doing today is going over Troop 373's two backpacking stoves that we have. They are Coleman Peak1s, model 400As. These are a little bit older stoves. They're no longer commercially available, but you can get parts for them. There are two differences between these stoves, but they are somewhat similar. The first one is they both have a primary on and off lever on it. That's the red lever. On this stove, it's got one position all the way on. It's got an off and an on position, where this stove has a low pointing straight down and high. So this is the only lever on this stove. To control the high and low levels on this stove, you have this lever over here, all the way over this way to the light position or high, and then low here in the middle. Both stoves then also have pumps in them. That's how you charge the pressure in there to get the stove to burn. When you do that, the lever has an arrow on it that says closed. That's when it's closed, and so that the tank is sealed, you can't pump it when it's that way. Otherwise, what you'll do is you'll turn it the opposite direction about 2 to 3 times. That'll open it up. There's a small hole. You'll cover that with your thumb. You'll hold the base, and then you will pump it. You'll get some resistance to it every once in a while. What you'll want to do is pump it somewhere between 20 to 30 times, full strokes, going all the way down and not hearing it. You shouldn't hear it blow. That's wrong. It should be quiet, and you should feel it squirt in there a little bit. Go ahead and then you'll close it. Then for lighting, what's been provided in the kits is a lighter. So what you'll do is then you'll do a strike. But the first thing we want to do whenever we're messing with the stoves is we want to get any of the extra fuel bottles or extra stoves away and get our area clean. So you'll notice around here is there's no extra debris or things sitting around on the ground. We'll talk about all these other items that are included, that you should have a windscreen with each stove. You should have a funnel, a lighter, and a pair of pliers. There will be also 2 fuel bottles, one for each stove. So each stove kit should come with that. I also like to have, when I'm working with any type of stove or hot things, a set of gloves for myself. All right, so let's go through, and we will first go through lighting the stove and show proper operation. So I'm going to set these items back. So I've already pumped it. I'm going to be using the one that only has the single lever. What the parts of this stove is this here is the main line that the fuel comes up out of this tank, across here, and then into the burner. This is what needs to get hot in case it's cold weather to get this stove to fire off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my hands down. I'm going to stay up on my feet, so if I need to get back, I can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to light my lighter and then turn the stove on, and it'll come up. If everything is burning well, you'll hear it sound like a stove, like a train running. It kind of starts to chug, and you'll hear it. You notice there was no flame up, there was no jumps. That's because of the pumps were proper in it, and also the fuel level in the stove. If you overfill the stove, and we'll go through that here in a minute, if you overfill the stove, you will get it what will be called a big flame that will be occurred. So what you'll get once it's running, that's fine. If that burner starts to come down or doesn't have enough pumps on it, you can always reach over, keeping your hands down low, open that burner up, and then give it a couple more pumps. But you'll light it. Bring it up so the flame is right there next to it, and you turn it on so the flame so it doesn't have any opportunity. When you start it like this and then light it, gas is going all over the place, and then you're bringing it in, and it does that. You'll notice how I am still staying up on my feet, and I'm keeping my hands down and away from the flame. To take it down to a low setting, you'll just turn the lever down to the low side. So if you are going to then, say, be using the stove, what you'll do is you'll take your pot and you'll set that onto the stove like that. You can keep your heat low. Then take your windscreen and set it up. And when you set it up, you'll want to note where the position of the controls are, and then wrap your windscreen around it so that the controls are able to be gotten to easily. I usually like to keep it up there fairly tight. There is some elements down around the bottom. If you keep it too tight or pack too much stuff around it, you will melt the stuff off of it because it'll get too hot inside of there. So that is basically basic operation. So then we're going to turn it off. Whenever we're working with anything on the stove, we're always going to want a set of pliers so that we can handle hot items. And anytime that we're going to stir or work with this pot, you're going to want to hold on to it with a pair of pliers and then stir with it so that you always have good control in and around the stove. All right, so let's take a look at a couple things that will cause problems. First, we'll go over filling. I'll go ahead and I'll take this stove and I'm going to set it off to the side. So when we're going to fill the stove, this stove does have some pumps on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack it. I'm going to let that pressure, you can hear it hissing. Loosen it up. All right, so now it comes off. When we fill the stove, we're going to put the funnel in. We're going to keep the stove flat. We're going to open up our bottle. You always want to fill it flat. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to pour a little bit of fuel in it. The tank on this is already fairly full, so I'm going to fill it up and then it'll go down into the hole. I'm going to pick it up so you can see it. So you can see there's just a little bit of fuel in there. I'm going to tip it in so it drains in, and then I'm going to leave it. I just put in just a hair amount of fuel. You'll notice I don't have a lot of fuel laying around. I didn't spill a whole bunch over the edge. You can tell when it's full, and when you look down in the hole, you'll see it just below the level on there. Go ahead and screw the lid back on. Take your fuel. The fuel is very flammable, so what you're going to want to do is keep your lid on it. And again, you're going to move that and your funnel back out of the way. All right, so just like the other stove now, you're going to want to open it up, and then you're going to want to pump it. So now what will happen if I just pump it a few times, say I don't pump it enough, and now I go ahead and I light it, bring this over to the high light position, start with this over here by the thing, light it up, you'll see it sits there and it's chattering. And you'll see how it's got a weak flame and it's starting to flame like that, and you notice it doesn't sound right. See how it's creating those flames? So what I know is I don't have enough pumps on it. So I'm going to open the valve up, and then I'm going to start pumping. So that was probably around 40 pumps. If somebody is paying attention and counting, you can correct me. So now you can hear it. It's running good and strong, and it's got a nice solid and consistent feel. So that's how you can solve one of those problems, is if it's big and flaming. Is that you might not have enough pumps, or you might have too much fuel in it. Either way, you'll need to pull that. You'll either need to pump it up or take some of the fuel out of it. So to go ahead and shut this stuff, well, to show you the controls, there's low, and there's high. So then here, you just, when you go to turn it off, you just turn that off and it'll pull that all the way down. On these particular stoves, that one's still a little bit hot, I'll grab the other one. On each stove, written here on the side of each stove is how much it should weigh, full and empty. On that, and then down on the bottom, it'll take for about 2 quarts, it'll take about, on high, about 6.5 minutes to boil 2 quarts of water. This stove on high has about 32 minutes of run time before you'll burn off all the fuel. So you have a little bit of time before you need to refill it on each run. That is the basic instructions on how to use the Troop's Peak1 400A stoves.